Joe Momo here. We're going to do something a little different here. We're going to talk about how I make money clips. Years ago I started working with leather. I bought some stuff from Tandy Leather. And then I made a couple of items. Not from a kit. I just bought the leather and made it. And I made an axe cover. A leather sheath for an old Boy Scout knife. Came out pretty well. Small pocket knife holder on a belt loop. Came out pretty well. And you can also make other things like this is just a leather wristband. You can get pretty decorative with it. And so I ordered a couple kits, and I made I think a checkbook cover that came out nice. Then at one point I ordered a money clip. Now I always carried money clips, and these are some of my old ones, just as I keep for demonstration purposes. And and you can see what happened to them after a couple of years. They just fell apart. I mean, you could pay up to $20, $30 for these, and the leather's always so thin, and always on the inside seems to be made of some sort of material. This one has a synthetic leather, and it lasts a couple of years, and that was the end of it. And this is probably the most recent one I own before I make my own. I keep it, wanted to show you how they fall apart, and then I use this one as a template, which you're also going to need. And you can see how thin the leather is, and it's like paper thin, and the inside is, this is material. The stitching, it just falls apart because it's just regular cotton thread, I believe. However, the magnets are nice and solid. It is pretty tight. And, since I always had it, I decided, hey, why don't I make my own? And so here's an example of one that I made. This is the end state of this, and this is one, I did a little tooling on here. It's got a somewhat of a darkish dye. This is like a simple floral pattern. I just kind of created this one myself, and on this one I just went and painted it and used leather paint and put in a Dominican Republic flag because it's for a gift. I put in the strong magnets, and it's got the pigskin lining, and one that's made like this using these materials is far superior to what you'd buy on the market. And it's cost effective also, because you're never going to buy another one. I think this is good enough for a lifetime. I have them 20 years, 25 years, and they look like they have no intentions of giving it up and becoming garbage at that point. So what do you need? The first would be the main components, which would be 2 to 3 ounce vegetable tan hide. I get this from Tandy Leather also. This is called tooling leather because you can put it in emboss those patterns in it when you soften up the leather. And this is what I use for the lining is glazed pigskin lining. This is strong stuff also. Between the two of them, when you made up this vegetable tan hide and heavy stitch it to this pigskin lining, you've got a tough item there. This is the tracing paper that's used for leather. It's semi-transparent and enough to see the image below it. And you do the same thing as regular tracing paper. This is somewhat of a plastic. It's much more durable. And you'd pick up the pattern with a pencil and then transpose it by kind of embossing it into the soft leather, and then you can tool it in and cut it into the leather in there, but that's another story. When you're putting these things together, the money clip, what gives it the aesthetic value is how symmetrical the stitches are as it goes around the leather. So once you take that pattern, you want to make sure everything is as even as possible, which is easier said than done. But these tools make it almost stupid proof if you use them properly. And this is the groover, and this will make the space from the edge and keep where the stitches line up to the outside edge of the leather even. And then that'll give you a line completely around the circumference of what you're stitching. And then you use this, which is this will be a spacer, and you run this like a wheel, and it has each little dimple, probably almost the same 3 millimeter. It'll give you little dots, and that'll let you know where it lines up so where you make the perforations. Once these done, then you go over and you use your stitching chisels where you need to perforate through the leather, because it's tough stuff, and to get a needle through, you're going to want to perforate it right through and then out the back, and then a little some. I use the one as I get the one when I make the turn and go around, and then I use the 4 when I'm just going something that's very linear. These are 3mm. The 4 and the 1, and I use because you're going to go through the leather, so you don't want to go in through the hard. You'll ruin the chisel and you'll ruin the hard surface. You don't want to go into wood of a table, so I use a block, a regular piece of 2x4, and then hammer it through. You're going to need a hammer, a small hammer. You don't need a heavy hammer. You don't have to buy one of the tooling hammers if you're not doing any tooling like that or any stamping. This is the kind of the one they use. It's just this way you don't bend up the head of the stitching chisel. But you can use a small hammer and just give it light taps. You can also use a small piece of board like this. You're going to need a needle. This is the standard. You can get this from Tandy Leather also, or anywhere. This is just a standard leather stitching needle. It's got a large eye and a very substantial point, so it's also a much thicker needle than normal sewing. You're going to need your thread. What I like to use is I use this wax nylon thread. This is braided nylon. This is really strong stuff. You're going to want to use this. This will last the life of the leather. It won't deteriorate. It's in your pocket, sweat, it may get wet. This won't deteriorate at all. And then I use this. I think this is a what do you call it? A tooling tool, but you can use a small spoon. I just use this to push down the liner. Once the two halves are assembled, you need to glue it, and that's where we get into this and use I use Echo Weld. This is leather adhesive, and then for the finishing, I use Professional Finish, the matte stuff, and you paint this on, and it'll protect the leather from the elements. It'll soften it and give it a somewhat semi-gloss shine, and it'll help preserve that leather, because it's going to get hit with sweat and water, and it'll also keep it cleaner, because again, it's an organic material. Is somewhat porous. It'll pick up some dirt if it gets dropped into the dirt. This will protect it. You're also going to need your magnets. These I get from Tandy Leather. Like this one, you can see where I went in there and I tore it out, and I just salvaged the magnets out of this one, because they all seem the same. This is strong stuff, and you can order these magnets from Tandy.
Oops.
Again, I said these are the items that you need if you were to totally fabricate it from scratch. I'll put a picture at the end of this where you can get the kit and do the first one. It'll come with the leather, the pre-cut and pre-perforated. It'll come with the liner, and then it'll have, I think in that one they use like a gut or a thin leather thread, a different type of thread. But you can, if you don't want to purchase all of these and just make one, you could purchase that and see how that works for you. And you can. It also comes with a tooling pattern, a simple floral pattern, if you want. But I fabricated myself because it offers greater versatility on creation. Again, I think these have become great gifts. I've gave them just about everybody I know, and you customize it, you make it, you personalize it, and it's something that'll last forever. And it's handmade, which is always a nice gift. Again, I consider them good for men and women, and I hope you see this video and might either try the kit and see how it goes, or go for it and fabricate your own. That's all I have from this one. Momo out. I'm going to do this. By the way, I'm going to do this in several parts, and so of course this is the first one part of the component listing. But again, okay, that's it for me. Momo out.